Now, you guys should be familiar with what Thor looks like. Watch list, all that good stuff, Telegram notifications. I told you guys about the trading automation that we're going to be doing via Telegram. That'll be some cool shit. So now we're in Thor. We're at the bread and butter, a lot of the reason that y'all are here. And hold on 1 second. Started vaping again. It is so bad.
This is like riding into headwinds, but I keep pushing forward. Does MS define me?
Pajamies, I got you on. I'm gonna mute you, bro. Just ping me if you want. Lena, we do have a trading journal template that we can post, but if you just do a quick Google search too, there'll be some good references there for you. So I'm going to navigate back to Thor. I'm going to assume at this point in time that I have no open trades, that I am completely out of the loop right now, and I'm going to tell y'all how I personally interpret Thor. I will give you guys some real world information that I have and let y'all, see how I think about things, because there's a few things that really start coming into play when you're looking at Thor. It's how are you positioned already? Do you hold any of this asset? Do you hold any Solana? Are you staking? What are you doing with it? You know what I mean? Or are you completely blank fucking slate? So let's just go ahead and start from there. Now, I personally really mainly trade 3 assets. And that's another big recommendation when it comes to trading 101, is to identify what it is that you're sentimentally bullish on. Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum, things like that you know are going to stand the test of time. Those are assets that, are higher levels of confidence holding, which really plays into the spot trading strategy that I personally prefer. If Ethereum goes to 100, well, I'll fucking stake my Ethereum and I'll get some free Ethereum from it. Does it suck balls? Yeah, it sucks, but I'm still going to get some extra Ethereum. Same with Solana. If Solana goes back to $8, well, I bought it at $18, or whatever. I'll fucking just stake it, whatever. So I'm not a big 15-minute guy. Every once in a while, if I have some extra time, I might take a 15-minute call or so. But I always start by going to the highest level time frame that we have. And we covered what time frames are. You're not going to hit this trade in an hour, 4 hours, one day. Simply referring to each one of these individual candles that you're seeing represented on the screen being the time of open and the time of close. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to look at the 1 day. We're looking at Solana right now, which everyone has access to if you have a single cyber frog. And let's just see what we got. Long, we know what long means. You're either going to buy the asset at this price or you're going to open a perpetual contract at this price. Short, the same thing. You're either going to sell your asset that you have at this price or you're going to open up a perpetual short. That's one of the biggest things that I'd like to really highlight here. When we say short, now, yes, you can open a contract, a perpetual contract, and you can physically short that asset. What I use shorts for personally is some of my higher take profit levels on my spot bags. I just said I bought Solana at $8. Now I'm sitting here looking at a big old fat short that says we're going to get to like the $25 range. Well, that's a clean, 4x. That sounds pretty good to me. 3x, whatever it is, 3x. I might take some profits here. So when people see these shorts and you're looking at these higher time frames that we've said, a lot of the times what I see is people opening up a big old fat short at this level. You should be asking yourself, do I own any of this asset? What did I purchase it for? And is this a level that I'm happy taking profit at? For me personally, yes. I am going to be selling some of my $8 Solana or even $18 Solana at these prices. Now, you have a big risk aversion when you're talking about spot. Let's just say, for instance, that the price keeps pumping and we retest 32, which is what it's showing us on the 1 week chart. Now, am I going to be upset that I didn't wait for 32? No. No one ever gets poor from taking profit. If you profit off of a trade, You have done yourself well. You have done right by trading, and you have fucking won. You made money trading. You've beaten 90% of traders out there. Don't be afraid to take profit. So when I'm sitting here and I'm looking at these, these signals, short to me doesn't always mean open up a perpetual short. And we'll cover some of that here in a second, and I'll actually show you. This is saying, hey, sell some of your Solana at these prices, and then set your buy orders back at these levels. So that's exactly what I personally did. I have like a small bag of Solana that I'm going to be selling in these ranges, and I have my orders already set for these prices right here. And so it's a way for you to begin, accumulating assets, selling them on pumps, and then DCAing back in at these intervals. So we're starting to really build on some of that terminology. If I lose you guys, just let me know. But that is exactly what this is. So when I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Thor, people want to look at a singular trade. You want to look at this and you want to, bet a bunch of money on it. And I would say, don't. Take a small percentage of your Solana, sell it at these prices, and rebuy DCA back in at these prices. When you look at that in that light, a few things come to mind. There's a 15% difference in price or whatever it is. Don't make me math on the spot. I'll just embarrass myself. So if I say something dumb, just let me know. But let's just say, 12%, 15%. I'm going to sell 100 Solana at this price. I'm going to rebuy 35% of that capital at this price. I'm going to rebuy, 35 at this price, and then I'm going to rebuy the remaining 30% at this price. I'm ensuring that I get in. I've already made 12% more Solana than I had at the prices that I sold at, and I'm going to give myself the opportunity to make some more down here. I either have the capital that I made from profit, or I have more of that asset at a discount. And that's fine for me. We've talked about time frames really, giving you an expectation of how long it could take. And just look at us fucking dancing around that shit right now. It's so beautiful. That's some bullshit, right? That's what we call some bullshit. That's the technical term for your trading 101 terminology. That's some bullshit. And that shit happens. Prices do vary across exchanges. And so sometimes you can miss a trade by pennies, and it sucks, but there's always another trade. So, that's really how I look at Thor. When I'm looking at short, it doesn't necessarily mean open up a hedge or open up a short position. It can mean taking profit on my spot pack. I'm going to go over here and let's look at something that has a couple of different ones. And if you guys don't have this many assets, buy more. That's a good one. Render. Oh, that's Rune. Fuck Rune. All right. So this is a really great example right here. We've got signals on all 4 time frames. Now we're going to do what Andy does when I go and look at a trade. I'm going to start by looking down here. Don't really so much worry about the invalid right now. Just let it roll. Look at all those fucking juicy signals that we got. So I took this trade right here. I bought a bag of render at the 1.3 marker, and I was looking at that fucking take profit level, and I was really excited because that's like 40% right. I'm about 30% of the way there, and that has been really good for me. So you're going to see all of these, and it's going to be a little bit overwhelming sometimes. You can really get lost in the sauce pretty easily when there's a shit ton of signals. So how do we interpret that? Well, you're going to do one of 2 things. You're either going to be trading spot or you're going to be trading perpetual. Now, once again, my recommendation is pick the assets that you love, that you want to hold on to, and that you want more of. And you don't give a fuck if a trade goes the wrong way. I'm going to do one of 2 things. I have 50% of my capital left. Let's just say I love render for just fucking, the purposes of this conversation. I don't. I just wanted to make some fucking money. I think it's probably a shitcoin or whatever. You have a couple of options here. Let's just say that you have absolutely zero render to your name and you're looking at these signals for the first time like a lot of you guys are. We talked about risk management. We talked about not deploying all of your capital all at once and giving yourself some leeway if there's a better opportunity to purchase more assets at a lower price. You want to always maintain 30 to 40%, if not more, of your actual capital, USDC, for purchasing and or trading. Now, I'm going to look at these levels. I start by looking at my entry zones here and really starting to scroll down. I see that there's a big fat ass range that we have, and that I'll do one of two things. Don't have to go all in on one trade, and these trades can be really indicative of a good DCA strategy. I'm going to dollar cost average in at this price, and at this price. I'm going to set aside however much, 10% of my capital, which is a lot for a single trade. Let's say like 5% of my capital. And I'm going to allocate that 5% on a staged entry because there's a huge range of signals here. Thor's telling us that it could go fucking up or down. What do I do? This is how you do it, is you do it all. I'm going to buy a little bit at this range. I'm going to buy a little bit at this range. And I'm going to buy a little bit at this range if we get there. Now, you can look at this right here. Your take profit levels do vary quite a bit. Now, what do you choose to do? That's a really difficult question to answer. A lot of it has to do with your own personal risk tolerances, and that's something that we use the Degenerate Shitcoin Trader Channel to really help talk through. You can ask somebody, hey, should I enter right here? And they can say, well, the take profit delta isn't something that I personally would bite on. That's only 12%. Meanwhile, down here, there's a 40% trading delta. Down here, there's even more. And so you can start balancing how you choose to DCA into an asset using the trading signals that are presented here. It can look overwhelming, but it's not really that fucking difficult. You can go up here and you can see our highlighted boxes that we have. And you can say, okay, well, shit. If we get down here, I'm going to purchase some and I'm going to save some of my capital because if we get down here, well, I want to buy a lot fucking more. And I'm going to have the capital ready to do so. By the same token, when you look at the shorts, we already mentioned that shorts don't always mean shorts. It's still a good opportunity for you to sell your spot bags at the short intervals. Yes, you can open up a short if you want to. You don't have to. You can simply take profit. Now, how do I really justify or really approximate how I want to go about this? Well, I've got two things going for me. I am personally in this trade right here. I see a big old short coming up right here. I think to myself, well, that take profit lines up with that short pretty much. That seems like a pretty good time for me to take some profit on my trade. Meanwhile, we have another signal right here. Well, that's pretty much take profit level 2, pretty much. So you can start looking at this and examining when it is the right time to buy and dollar cost average in, and when's the right time to sell and scale out. Now, this is on the 1 day. When you're on the 1 day, those take time, and that's when patience comes into play. Here's how I sort of take the next level, and I'm asking myself, well, what's more of the immediate price action that we're expecting? Well, I'm going to start scaling in on time frame. We've already seen that there's a large range on the 1 day, and that can fluctuate a lot. Now, while we're on the 4 hour, meaning that each one of these candles is a 4 hour representation of trading, this is the only signal that Thor's calling for. Well, if I want to take an intermediary sort of level trade, I can buy my render at 1.5 and I can expect to sell it right here. Or, adding to the complexity of some of this, I'm going to buy it at this 4 hour level. And what was it that it said on that 1 day? 1.9? Well, that's pretty fucking cool. All right, I'm going to buy right here and I'm going to sell it at the 1 day. So once again, you're not shorting, you're simply using the shorts as take profit indicators. Now, I personally would not do that on Render just because it's not something I'm like really bullish on. I just wanted a big fat gain. So we've looked at maybe what the next week looks like. 4 hours is, I'd say, a good look at the next week to 2 week sort of price assumptions. We're going to scale in even further. Now we're on the 1 hour time frame. What does the next couple of days look like? What should we expect in the next couple of days? You're getting into where people will find that leverage does help, that some of the trading deltas are smaller deltas, and so that applying leverage can help you maximize the amount of money that you're making on the trade. But at the same time, the inherent risk is increased at that point. So what does this say? Well, we've got 1.6, 1.62, 1.5. Okay, there's the 4 hour signal right there on the 1 hour. So that means that 4 hour signal is probably getting pretty close to entry. Okay, I might look at that. I don't know. Let's see how I feel. And then a short at 1.7. I don't give a fuck about this. I'm waiting for $2. And, you know, if I wanted to buy a little bit more render, then I'll buy a little bit more render. But I'm not really worried about that. That's not the profit. That's not the trade I'm in. Your trade, plan your trade and trade your plan. My plan has been to sell my render at $2, and that's what I'm fucking doing. Scaling in a little bit further, what's the next day or two look like? Well, that 1.7 is good, so there might be some resistance here. You know, I could take a little bit of profit right here and then buy down, but I don't really give a shit. That's not enough for me to really care about. I'd rather save it for $2. And same with this 1.6. I'm already in at the 1.23, so I'm good. Now, what does that mean? Like, what did I just do? This is literally how I personally look at Thor. I start here, and I look at the big moves. I took one big move right here, and I'm waiting for this and this for me to sell it. Everything else to me as Andy the trader is noise. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to waste my time. I don't care about small action. I want that 40% profit right here on that trade, and I'm going to get it. I think I covered a little bit about like DCAing in, and at the same point, you know, you're going to want to average out of a trade. You don't have to wait for Valhalla. You can take profit at TP1 and TP2. You can save a small bag and save it for TP3. You want to begin balancing your own trades in a method that really sets you up for success. And you don't go poor taking profit. Don't be a fucking moon boy, a moon girl. That shit holds no fucking place in trading, other than the idiots on your fucking Twitter time. You want to actualize gains, and you want to take risk-averse trades, which is why we're talking about spot trading and on the higher time frame. You may get bored as shit. It is boring. It is a boring ass way to trade. Takes time, takes patience, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. If you're making money, you're outperforming 90% of the quote unquote traders out there. So, you know, that's a little bit of a breakdown on how to begin interpreting when there's a lot of signals being represented on Thor. What is it that you find is in your best interest? If you don't know, Degenerate Shitcoin Traders Channel or Neo Tokyo Wastelands is a great place for you to ask those questions. So let's look at an asset that we have listed on Thor, and I'd love to get a recommendation from somebody. Lena, I'm going to put you on the spot if you're still in here.
I had a quick question.
Yo.
So I haven't actually traded with, well, maybe once, but I don't use spot. I've actually taken, I guess the riskier route with perpetuals. But my question is, when Thor makes a call and provides the entry range, because perpetuals is typically less than the actual spot asset, does the entry that Thor provides still apply to both if both perpetual and spot provide, or guess if they both have or fall within the range that Thor provides?
It's no different. You can buy
Okay.
them at spot, or you can open a perpetual contract. And look, you're getting my own trading bias in this conversation right here, and I'm really pushing for that just because that's what I personally know really well. If someone is really open to that risk of perpetuals contract, it is inherently more risky, then it's still the same. It's a good opportunity for you to open up a perpetual contract at those prices, or it's a good opportunity for you to buy those assets at those prices. All right, so Lena doesn't want to get put on the spot. So somebody else, what asset do you guys want to look at? Let's just do the same thing I just did for render on a different coin. And we'll talk through it one more time. Thor does get a little bit, not confusing, but maybe overwhelming when there's multiple signals active at once. And that's why I had said that those are really good, entry points for you to DCA in, or even when you're trading in a perpetual to maybe add to your position to. If you know what you're getting into going into it, that's what I would recommend. Captain, I saw you unmuted, brother. What asset you want to look at?
Oh, I was just going to say, I just started messing around with Drift literally yesterday, because I'm not supposed to be using it. I'm in the U.S. So, but I got on, and I just took a SUI, a long 1 hour SUI call. So I mean, we could always touch on that.
Talk.
I guess
another good shit coin.
Oh, it's definitely a shit coin.
Yeah, the more TPS than Solana. Go fuck yourself.
So I don't know. I kind of am trying to come up with my like, not just my trading strategy, but kind of like my crypto strategy. So, but I'm only spot, like, I guess what I'm doing, I'm spot trading literally Bitcoin and Solana, and that's really all I hold, except for a little bit of ETH. But my bags are Bitcoin and Solana, so I've been trying to spot trade those, but I've just been using like a couple $100 little mini bag that I just threw in to trade, like do perpetuals on, stuff that I have no desire holding, right? At all. So just like almost like, I mean, is that something that is like decent to do? Just use a little bag to kind of, I guess it's almost like gambling a little bit, I guess. But I mean, I'm literally doing is taking the Thor calls, putting them in, putting my long or short in on Drift, setting my stop loss, setting my TP 1, and going on my way. I'm not even looking. And so far I've hit 3, and I invalidated on, or hit my stop loss on 2. But I'm up a little bit. So like, is that like, I mean, that's kind of the way to go, right? Not get any emotion in it at all. Just set it and forget it. And take what what you get. Take what Thor gives you.
100%. And so when you're managing a small bag, that's when a lot of the times that we see people wanting to put a lot of leverage on stuff. And, until you get your risk management down, it is where that risk inherently comes from. That's not to say that it can't help, but a slow and steady level of profit outperforms riskier actions every single time. You only have to get wrecked on one trade where you've applied too much risk to it for your trading account to be fucked up. Meanwhile, if you're doing slow and steady, you're either spot longing, spot purchasing, or running a very mild amount of perpetuals, with leverage, that's where your risk aversion can come into play. And so I would say, yes, that's totally fine. What I really recommend, and you don't have to take my word for this. You can find your level of comfort, but I do suggest doing some research, with some of the other trading resources out there, is don't do a ton of leverage when you're learning how to do perpetuals. When you're managing a small bag, as long as you've done your risk management and you've determined the maximum amount of money that you're willing to lose on a trade, when you put that trade in, it will tell you straight up, like, this is how much you're going to lose if it hits your stop loss. So, dude, 3 profitable trades out of 5, that's not so bad. That's pretty damn good. And that's why we highlight risk management.
Feels really good.
It demystifies it. You know what I mean? So, all right, I'm going to do one thing, and then I'm going to switch accounts, and I'm going to show y'all a little bit about drift. Also, I'm just going to fucking throw this out there. Yes, thank you. Solana is down something like 30% from when we opened, and our contract is up 11% in terms of US dollars. So we are currently outperforming the market by about 40%, and we've actualized some USD value fucking profit. I also have 20% more Solana than I started out with, so not fucking bad. So let's just say, all right, fuck render. Let's look at Sui. All right, so this is another good asset for us to look at. Now, when you get into some of the smaller cap coins, some of the maybe newer coins and stuff like that, Thor still does absolutely fantastic on it. You do just need to really be risk averse when dealing with these, in my personal opinion, because those are really easily manipulated coins. So we're going to do exactly what I did with Solana. We're going to start on the macro, and we're going to go dial our way down. We're going to come down here, and we're going to look at 3 signals that we currently have. Now, this is a really juicy entry price for 0.25 to 0.28. Cool. That's a 40%, 50%, 60% delta right there. I'm going to put $100 on that. And I'm going to open up a position, and I'm going to have that order filled if it fills. And if it doesn't, I'll cancel it in the future. This is another really important thing that I didn't touch on, is the invalidation level. This will tell you when that is no longer mathematically probable to get to that point. So if we pump into some of these shorts, which is what you'll generally see, the invalid here is really around the first short entry right here. So if this goes the wrong way, that's no longer going to be an active call. That'll move over to the validated call. So for Sui, I bought a bag around 0.44, and I'm going to tell you how I personally interpret this. 0.44. So let's just operate under that assumption that you've taken a long at some range down here, maybe a week or so ago. And now you're looking to either take profit or figure out what the fuck to do. I look at this and I say, these are 2 short signals. I can do one of 2 things like we talked about. I can choose these as my take profit levels for my spot bags that I already have. Or if I'm running perpetuals contract, I can close my contract and profit right here. Or I can open up a short. I see someone's unmuted. What do you got? Maybe I'm just hearing shit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think it's me. I hit it by accident.
No, it's okay. I thought you had a great question. I was ready for it, bro.
Yeah, my question is, why do you sound different, Mode?
Mode is currently in the woods hiding somewhere. I don't know what he's doing. He's on like some camping journey. So y'all are lucky to, I'd say lucky, but y'all have risk of bores the shit out of me with his trading. To hit and take profit. I don't personally like to do that. I think like a month is really where I'm at. So, Mode will really give other recommendations, and that's why we've really presented Thor as a tool for you to use and establish your own trading strategy against, but all of us will push risk management. So back to this fun, what are we looking at? We're looking at SUI. So I'm spot long personally around 44 cents. We see a couple of different shorts right here, and we're going to do what I had said beforehand. We're looking at the 1 day, so we know that those are some of the bigger move expectations in the market. And I am going to start selling some of my SUI at these prices. I'm going to set maybe 40% of what I have currently in my spot bag to sell at these prices, and I'm going to DCA back in at these prices. You can go ahead and set your sell limit right here, and then once that hits, you can set your buy orders at these levels right here. The same goes for this. Why did I only sell 40% at this point? One, I don't give a shit about SUI. I don't want to bag hold SUI. I don't give a fuck. I'm fine having no exposure to SUI at all. I'm just doing this because it had a good trade on it. So I'm going to sell 40% of my SUI here, and then I'm going to sell 50% of it at these prices. Now, I'm going to, once again, maybe DCA back in or, apply that capital that I gained to a different trade. Well, Andy, that doesn't add up to 100%. What are you doing with that other 10%? Maybe I sell that as my moon bag if things keep fucking pumping. So I will remain like a little bit of exposure. So this is what we know we're looking at in the next couple of weeks. I really hope that this happens. I put a big ass amount of money on this, and I will make a good amount of money if we get to those levels. I'll literally double my money if we get to these prices right here. But I'm having 70% more money. So we know what the 1 day looks like. We see the levels charted out right here. We know that we're going to set a buy order down there just in case. And we know that we're going to sell a percentage here, and we know we're going to sell a percentage here. If you're running perpetuals and you want to short the market, we know that we're going to open up a small short here, and we know that we may open up a bigger short up here. It's just a way for us to balance the possible price actions that we have. Hold on one second. Okay, so what does the next week or so look like? Okay, cool. Well, here's this. I like that. Sounds good. Took that trade right on. Thor maybe recommends to buy a little bit more if it goes down here. I can DCA in and purchase a little bit more right here if I want to, or wait for that 20 cents. I personally would not do that. I don't feel the need to average in at those prices. And so I'm just going to ride it with this, and I'm happy with that. Now, you can look at the short. I can either take some profit here if I get tired of my exposure to SUI, and I'll have made, 20%, whatever that is, right on. Or I can open up a short. I probably wouldn't. I'm happy bag holding this for, a little bit while I get to those 1 day take profit levels. So zoom in even further. What's the next day or so look like? Okay, same recommendation. Good, took that one. I don't think I need to take any more of that, so who gives a fuck? And look, here you go. And this is where I'm really personally spot trading, and why. If you longed right here and you put a shit ton of leverage, you'd be wrecked right now. Now, I bought right here. I'm down 6% on this right now. I don't really give a shit. I'll wait it out because Thor's usually right. And I'm happy to wait for that 70 cents. On the 15 minutes, here we go. 15 minutes, it's calling for a slight price action, 4.6, whatever. This is where, the variations on how people use Thor really come into play. There's not a ton of delta in between these two. I could open a short. It's on a 15-minute time signal. I could do it. I would need to apply a pretty large amount of leverage or do a really large trade for me to get enough gains for me to give a shit. I'm really personally happy waiting for the 1 day signal. I bought right here on the 4 hour. I'm going to ignore these personally, though this is what the mathematical recommendation is. But I'm personally ignoring those, and I'm going to start looking at my shorts to figure out where my take profit levels are. 0.55, I might sell 5%. On the 1 day, 784, that's what I'm really looking at. And we go from there. So, questions. I know that we're getting into some of the territory where you're having to interpret Thor. And that is where some of the complexity comes into play, because you're asking yourself, well, what the fuck do I do? And I've given you some recommendations on what I would do. I would plan my trade, and I would trade my plan. I would trade assets that I'm fundamentally happy holding, regardless of price action. And I personally would use spot trading. So if a trade goes the wrong way, I can still do whatever the fuck it is that I want to do with that asset. Stake it, provide liquidity, buy NFTs, whatever the fuck. Doesn't matter. I personally trade Bitcoin, Solana, and Ethereum mainly, and then I will take some shitcoin trades when the deltas are just too fucking ripe for me not to. Now, I'm going to get into some of the higher tier stuff. Actually, I'm going to shut up for a second and say questions, comments, concerns. I'm going to do one thing, and this is going to be one of the last things we talk about on Trader Tuesday, and then we will just open it up for questions. Once again, this is just meant to be 101, and I really wanted to focus on how do I interpret the Thor signals when there's a ton of signals. The biggest thing I want to stress here, and I've seen it time and time again, even from some of you in the audience right now, it's, hey, I opened up this short, and oh, it's getting wrecked. That's when you see Sile come in and generally say, it's a good time to take profit. And that's really the trading style that he and I both have, is the spot trading, macro moves. When it says short, it doesn't mean open up a fat ass short. It sometimes means take profit depending on how you're trading. Now, if you are strictly running perpetuals, I don't know if Xander's in here, but Xander is a really good trader from what I've seen. They know how to interpret this data, and they know when and how to open shorts and when to apply leverage. As you're learning the ropes, leverage is one thing, again, just to stray away from. So let's just go over here. I'm going to click that little tab right here. We're going to take ourselves to Thor Pro. I say that this is really more beneficial, the higher tier access that you have, because there's just a ton of signals at this point that really can be overwhelming. So I'm going to do a few things. We already talked about my trading strategy, my trading style, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take some of the noise and fluff and filler out. I'm going to deselect 15 minutes. I'm going to deselect 1 hour. 1%, it's not enough for me to make money. I'm a spot trader. I don't give a shit. 10% minimum. It's going to populate all of the signals that Thor recommends on my 4 hour in 1 day on any asset that I choose. And it's going to tell me what is a 10% more expectation of profit or not. Injective is good. I do have some injective. We just covered render. Look at that juicy fucking take profit level. That sounds great. We're going to go down. You can start seeing some of these, I don't want to call them shit coins, but definitely more in the shitcoin field, Matic and all that good stuff. All right, so that's way too much shit. I'm overwhelmed right now. I don't want to fuck with it. Well, I'm not going to trade Bonk right now. I'm not going to trade Doge. I'm not going to trade DOT, HBAR, Solana, Litecoin, Bitcoin, Matic, Near, Optimism, Rune, Sand. I like Sand. I like Sol. I like Sui. All right. And I'm spot on most of these with mainly looking through everything and showing me what the best trading deltas are, and it's given me just a one-off on this is what to take from your recommendations or your preferred assets and the expectation of trading delta that we have right here. I purchased this. I have an order set for this. That's a juicy trade. I'm into injective. Cool, right on. I'll take that trade. Y'all all know that I took the render trade. Currently dancing around 30% profit. Near, fuck it. Sui, pretty juicy right there. We'll maybe set a long order right there. And you can use this as a way to really look quickly at what the most profitable trades are. You can select the heat map right here. Gives you a really quick overview of what things are looking like. And now my ADD is really starting to kick in, and I'm wondering what I'm going to go trade.